in our industry, and I don't care how simple you want to be, I don't care how straightforward you want to make it, we always end up with people, even at the lowest functional level, saying, "Hey, geez, we have an HR system, we have we have SAP, we have PeopleSoft, we have all these types of systems that have data that we want that data kind of normalized between that core system, which is probably the system of record for things such as cost centers, departments, divisions, whatever, people within the organization, and we want to make sure that that data stays synchronized and normalized. We don't want to do it manually. We don't want to do a manual import. Those types of functions in the real world, particularly in the enterprise world, are events that are $10, $15, $20, $50,000 in cost to integrate. And we've talked about this previously. Everybody starts out, we want a live connection to our SAP system to make sure that when a change is made there, we're instantly seeing it in Evolve and maybe vice versa. That's a great idea in concept until you talk to the IT department and they just chuckle a lot because they're never going to allow you to do a live connection. So the way almost every implementation I've ever seen to do those things, say, hey, we're going to drop a file here, you pick it up and do what you need, or you're going to drop a file there, we'll pick it up and we'll evaluate it and make sure that it doesn't corrupt our system. That's what Data Broker does. It is a mechanism for plopping a tab-delimited text file at a location where any system can pick it up and do what it wants with it, or picking up a tab-delimited file from a system and bringing it into Evolve. As far as Data Broker is concerned, the default engines or the default collections we've already put in place is the ability to take in or out contact information. So this is an example of an incoming contacts spreadsheet. So we have a file name. Hey, what is the file name that we're going to be looking for? What is the key field that we're going to evaluate records in that spreadsheet against records in our database? And in this case, employee ID is usually key. It could be email, and it could be name. Name is the absolute worst one to use, by the way, because if I have two Tom Smiths, I'm kind of screwed. Email is probably the second best. Usually those are unique. And employee ID, if the organization has one and can output it, probably the single best method of matching records on there. So that's very simple settings. Hey, what's the text file name? And we'll talk about where it goes. What's the key field you want to match on? And then you have the ability to put, and Pat, listen closely to this part because we're going to have this discussion following this, one or more email addresses in here so that when this thing fires, whether it's fired manually or whether it's fired by a scheduled task in SQL, when it completes, it will send an email out to whoever you put in this email list. So those are the settings on the first tab. Then you have options. This is incoming, I will remind you. What do you want to do with this data as it comes in? Geez, if there's new records, I want to add them. If there's changes to existing records, I want to edit them. And this checkbox, I can't be more clear. There's a warning here. If you click this remove checkbox right here, and if an incoming file does not have a name in it, all the records in Evolve that don't match the incoming names will be deactivated. You want to be very cautious about when you use this, if ever, because there is another mechanism. In the incoming file, you can have a remove column with a true false that will take the same effect. It will deactivate records if the value in the remove column is set to true. So I would be very, very cautious about this. I don't know what else we can do to let you know that you have a way of really screwing up your world right here if you make this selection, but there are times when you may want to make it happen. And then, in addition to, hey, we're actually bringing this into the contacts collection, which is just our list of names that we can make, they can make requests, we can put them on as supervisors or whatever. But what else do we want? We want to add them to the occupants collection so that we can place them in seats. Geez, we actually want to add them to users of the system when they come in so that they can make service requests. So you pick your options as what you want to do incoming. And then there's attribute mapping. We'd love to be able to say, hey, we want you to absolutely put out a spreadsheet that these are the column names, period, end of conversation. That's never going to happen. So we do provide a tool in here to map. On the left-hand side are the attributes related to contacts. On the right-hand side are the column names in the spreadsheet, that you're mapping those together so that now we know how that incoming data maps to the fields in Evolve. That's all there is to setting up, whether it's contacts, cost centers, you have contacts and everything else here. If it's not a contact, it is a cost center, tiers 1 through 5. Same concepts absolutely apply to those. That's all there is to setting it up. You can fire these things manually by hitting this button, or you can create, and when we deliver Evolve, there is a folder at the top, at the core level of the Evolve folder, which has administrative scripts, which allows you to set up a scheduled stored procedure that will fire at midnight every night to fire off this incoming or outgoing stuff. So that's the incoming piece. Outgoing is very similar. And outgoing just puts out a tab delimited file. The beauty of this is you can do anything you want in here. You're not going to corrupt your data inside the system here. So in this particular case, geez, I want to output my contacts. What is the file name I want to output to? Who do I want notified once this thing fires? And then in this case, we're just picking which columns we want to output. You can filter by values in those columns. Hey, only send me out records that have an employee ID. And then we have a title column. Somebody asked this question yesterday. What does the title column mean? When I output a spreadsheet, at the top of the spreadsheet for the column name, right now this is going to say employee ID. Maybe I want it to say something else, and I can put that in there, HR ID. So when the spreadsheet outputs, that's going to be the column title on it. And once again, that's all there is to it. So I take that contacts, I pick the columns that I want to go out. I can add some filters to those columns because maybe I don't want every single record going out. I want them going out based on specific criteria. I may want to change what the final spreadsheet column headers are. And then once again, I can either fire this manually or with that administrative procedure, set it up to schedule this to be fired. And then I can put a list of people that should be emailed once this is fired off. That is Data Broker in a nutshell.